Oliver Brooks had always preferred silence over unnecessary conversation. It wasn't shyness, it was self-protection, a habit carved into him during years of surviving hallways where laughter often came with sharp edges. Damon Kellis had been the loudest of those edges, a shadow that used to stretch across Oliver's early life like an unwelcome storm. Even as an adult, Oliver sometimes felt the echo of those days, though he had spent years teaching himself not to flinch at their memory. Reed Mason, his boyfriend of nearly 2 years, liked to tell him that the past had no authority over the present. "People grow, Ollie," Reed would say with easy charm, brushing his fingers through Oliver's hair. "You did. So maybe those boys did too." Oliver never argued, but some experiences left stains that couldn't be scrubbed out by optimism. On a humid Thursday morning, Oliver accepted a part-time evening shift at Pierce Athletics, a small community gym 5 blocks from his apartment. He needed the extra money for reasons that were practical, not dramatic. Rent was rising, Reed's hours at work had become unpredictable, and Oliver didn't want to rely on someone whose attention was already stretched thin. The job would be simple: reception work, equipment checks, and handling new memberships. Nothing emotional, nothing complicated. He believed that until he stepped into the gym's office and saw Damon Kellis leaning over the counter, checking inventory. Oliver froze. Damon glanced up, his expression unreadable for a breath, then softened into something quiet, almost polite. It was unsettling. Damon had changed physically: broader shoulders, calmer posture, a face no longer sharpened by teenage arrogance. Yet recognition traveled between them so quickly that Oliver felt the air tighten. "Oh," Damon said, straightening. "You're Oliver Brooks." Hearing his name from that voice made Oliver's pulse trip. He nodded because words felt unreliable. Damon didn't smile, but he didn't smirk either, a detail that unbalanced the memories Oliver carried. "You're the new evening hire?" Damon asked, tone neutral. "Yes," Oliver managed. Damon glanced toward the hallway. "Callan's in the back. He'll give you the tour." Oliver expected Damon to follow, to reclaim some old dynamic, but instead he stepped aside, giving Oliver a clear path. No taunting, no swagger. Just space. Callan Pierce, the gym owner, was friendly and straightforward. He showed Oliver the front desk, the member log, the stack of towels that always needed folding. It should have been ordinary, and it almost felt that way, until Oliver exited the office and saw Damon again, adjusting weights on the squat rack, silent but somehow aware of him. Damon didn't approach. He barely looked. Still, something in his posture hinted at unfinished business. When Oliver returned home that evening, Reed was sitting on the couch, scrolling through something on his phone with the faintest frown. "You're back early," Reed said without looking up. "Training ended a bit sooner," Oliver replied. Reed finally set the phone aside. "So, how was the first day?" Oliver hesitated. If he mentioned Damon, Reed would either downplay it or misunderstand entirely. So Oliver said, "Normal. Just learning where everything is." Reed nodded, already reaching for his phone again. "Good. You'll get used to it." That simple dismissal stung in a way it shouldn't have. Oliver sat beside him, but the couch felt wider than usual, the space between them oddly pronounced. Reed had been distant lately, late-night work shifts, vague explanations, conversations that ended faster than they started. Oliver told himself not to read into it, but doubt had a way of creeping in when silence grew too familiar. The next evening, the gym was busier. Oliver found a rhythm behind the counter, checking in members and wiping down surfaces. He tried not to look at Damon, who moved through the space with a quiet efficiency Oliver didn't remember from childhood. Damon's presence felt heavy, not threatening, but loaded, as if a question hovered between them. Near closing, Damon approached the desk. Oliver's shoulders tensed automatically, an old reflex. "I'm locking up the weight room," Damon said, voice calm. "You need anything before I do?" "No. I'm fine," Oliver answered, keeping his tone clipped. Damon didn't move immediately. He rested his hands on the counter, fingers tapping once. Not impatient, thoughtful. "Look," Damon began, "I know working with me might not be comfortable." "If you want," Oliver cut in. I don't need anything. Damon stopped. His eyes held no irritation, only a restrained kind of regret. Okay. Then I'll leave you to it. He walked away without another word. Oliver exhaled slowly, as if his lungs had been waiting for permission. He hated the way Damon's presence stirred a conflict inside him, a mix of resentment, suspicion, and something he couldn't name. Damon didn't behave like someone who once shoved him into lockers or mocked him for the tremor in his voice whenever he stood up for himself. This version of Damon was unfamiliar, almost annoyingly considerate. Oliver closed the gym with methodical care, double-checking everything just to keep his mind occupied. When he stepped outside, the night air carried the smell of rain. He pulled his jacket close and began walking home, hoping Reed would be awake, maybe even in a talkative mood. But when he entered the apartment, the lights were off except for a dim glow from the bedroom. Reed was asleep, phone resting on the pillow beside him. Oliver stared for a moment. He wasn't jealous, just unsettled. Something about Reed's recent distance felt like a shifting foundation beneath their lives. That he placed the phone gently on the nightstand, then lay beside him, listening to the faint rhythm of Reed's breathing. His mind replayed the day, the shock of seeing Damon, the tension that hadn't broken, the strange gentleness in Damon's eyes when he spoke. Oliver closed his eyes, frustrated by how the past insisted on crawling back. He didn't want confusion, didn't want to feel anything except stability. But stability required consistency, and right now that was the one thing missing in nearly every corner of his life. As sleep edged closer, he told himself that tomorrow would be easier. Cleaner. Predictable, but deep down, he already knew that Damon's unexpected return had shifted something, and the days ahead would not unfold as quietly as he wished. And though Oliver couldn't yet name it, the real story, the one tied to betrayal, confession, and redemption, had already begun. Oliver returned to the gym the next evening prepared to keep his distance, but Damon Kellis made that impossible without crossing into rudeness. Damon wasn't pushy or intrusive, he simply existed in Oliver's periphery with an awareness that felt intentional but not aggressive. Every time Oliver glanced up from the reception desk, Damon was helping someone adjust their form, offering a quiet correction, or carrying equipment with a seriousness that contradicted their shared past. What unsettled Oliver most was the absence of any mocking energy. Damon's old arrogance had been sanded down into something quieter, something that felt like remorse. During a slow hour, Oliver stepped into the storage room to organize resistance bands. He preferred these brief pockets of isolation, where memory couldn't sneak up on him as easily. But the door opened a minute later, and Damon appeared, holding a clipboard. "I'm not trying to corner you," Damon said carefully, staying near the doorway. "I just need to check inventory." Oliver nodded but didn't speak. He focused on coiling the last band into a neat circle. Damon hesitated before adding, "The way you tense when I walk in. I know I earned that. But I'm not him anymore." Oliver kept his back turned. "People say that all the time." "I get why you don't believe me," Damon murmured. "But I'd like to earn your trust. If you'll let me." Oliver finally looked over his shoulder. Damon wasn't asking for forgiveness, he was asking for a chance to prove he deserved it. That distinction, subtle as it was, threw Oliver slightly off balance. "I'm here to work," Oliver said quietly. "Nothing else." Damon nodded. "Understood." He stepped out, leaving Oliver with a weight in his chest he couldn't categorize. Later that night, Reed showed up unexpectedly to walk Oliver home. Normally, Oliver would have welcomed the gesture, but Reed's timing felt abrupt, almost performative. Reed wrapped an arm around his waist as soon as they reached the sidewalk. "So," Reed said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, "made any new friends at work?" The question landed wrong. Oliver kept his tone even. "It's a job, not a social club." Reed chuckled but sounded strained. "I'm just asking. You don't need to be so defensive." "Defensive?" Oliver bit back a retort. He didn't understand why everything lately felt like a negotiation instead of a conversation. They walked silently until Reed broke it again. "You've been weird lately," he said. "Is it the extra hours? Or something else?" Oliver stiffened. "Nothing else." Reed's gaze lingered on him, searching for something Oliver refused to reveal: confusion. About Damon. About their relationship. About the strange emotional distance that had crept between them like fog. When they reached the apartment, Reed kissed his cheek, lingering a few seconds too long, as if he wanted to claim reassurance rather than offer it. "Get some sleep," Reed whispered. Oliver nodded and slipped inside, feeling neither comforted nor understood. The next week unfolded with a slow burn of tension. Damon kept his distance physically but engaged with Oliver in small, meaningful ways, clarifying instructions, offering help only when necessary, and stepping back the moment Oliver seemed overwhelmed. It was as if Damon understood Oliver's boundaries better than Reed did lately. Lena Hart noticed Oliver's distracted state at the reception desk one evening. "You're folding that towel like it wronged you," she joked. Oliver blinked and set the towel aside. "Sorry. Just tired." "You're something else," Lena said, leaning on the counter. "You can say you're stressed without the world collapsing." Oliver exhaled. "I'm not stressed." "You're lying," she said without malice. "Is it Reed?" Oliver didn't answer, which was answer enough. "He loves you," Lena added gently. "But love gets messy when people stop showing up." Oliver didn't want to think about that. He returned to the towels, but Lena's words stuck. Later that night, Damon approached with a hesitant calm that suggested he had rehearsed his next sentence. "Oliver," he said softly, "I owe you an explanation." Oliver closed the logbook. "About what?" "Everything," Damon replied. "High school. The way I treated you. The things I said. I carried all of that with me for years." Oliver's chest tightened. He wasn't sure he wanted truth if it risked stirring old wounds, but Damon's sincerity didn't feel manipulative, it felt necessary. Damon continued, voice low. "I didn't hate you. I hated myself. I wasn't ready to be who I was. And you were someone I recognized but didn't have the courage to understand. So I did the worst thing I could, I pushed you away by hurting you." Oliver swallowed hard. The confession wasn't surprising, but hearing it aloud reshaped the memories in ways he wasn't ready for. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Damon said. "I don't deserve that. But I want you to know the truth. I want you to see that I'm trying to be better." Oliver stared at him, struggling to form any words that wouldn't either break him open or shut him down completely. "You can't just rewrite history, Damon." "I'm not trying to," Damon said. "I just don't want the past to keep defining us." Us. The word hung between them like a fragile thread. Before Oliver could respond, Reed walked into the gym, surprising both of them. His eyes immediately locked onto Damon, then Oliver, then back again with a look sharpened by suspicion. "This where you've been?" Reed asked, his tone deceptively light. Oliver stepped back from the counter. "I'm working." "Right," Reed said. "Seems like you're getting close with your coworkers." Damon shifted subtly, protective without being confrontational. "We were just talking." Reed didn't look at him. He only watched Oliver, expression unreadable. "We'll discuss this at home," Reed said quietly. He left as abruptly as he'd entered. Oliver's stomach twisted, not from guilt, but from the realization that Reed hadn't asked what they were discussing. He had only reacted to the idea of Oliver confiding in someone else. Damon's voice broke the silence. "I didn't mean to cause anything." "You didn't," Oliver said, though part of him wasn't sure. Damon nodded once, stepping back. "If you ever want the rest of the truth, I'll tell you. But only when you ask." Oliver watched him walk away, conflicted and raw. Reed's distance, Damon's honesty, Lena's warnings, it all converged into one painful truth: something in his life was shifting, and he no longer knew which direction represented safety. Yet beneath that uncertainty, curiosity sparked, a dangerous, persistent question he didn't dare voice: what if the person he feared most was becoming the one he trusted more than anyone else? Reed Mason was already awake when Oliver Brooks stepped into the kitchen the following morning. The air felt heavy, as if the argument from the previous night had stained the walls. Reed stood by the counter, scrolling through his phone with forced indifference. He didn't look up immediately, which told Oliver everything he needed to know. Reed had rehearsed his anger. "We need to talk," Reed said finally. Oliver kept his voice steady. "About what you saw at the gym?" Reed scoffed. "Saw? Oliver, it wasn't what I saw, it's what I've been feeling for weeks." "You're pulling away from me." Oliver leaned against the table, careful not to let irritation blur the truth. "I'm not pulling away. I'm overwhelmed. Work, bills, you coming home late without explanation," Reed cut in sharply. "I don't need to explain everything. But you expect me to?" Oliver asked. Silence. Thick, telling silence. For a moment, Reed's eyes softened, but not from empathy, from fear. "I just don't want to lose you," Reed whispered. Oliver's heart contracted. He wanted to believe Reed, but something in that tone felt like a plea grounded in guilt rather than love. Before Oliver could respond, Reed kissed his forehead and muttered, "Let's talk later. I have a meeting," then slipped out the door, leaving Oliver suspended between confusion and exhaustion. That evening at Pierce Athletics, Oliver moved through his shift with mechanical precision. Damon Kellis noticed immediately. "You look like you're carrying a planet on your shoulders," Damon said gently as he wiped down the rowing machine. Oliver gave a thin smile. "Long morning." Damon didn't push. "If you want space, I'll give it. If you want a listener, I can be that too." Oliver hesitated. Damon's presence was a strange comfort, steady, grounded, unpretentious. "Nothing like the boy who once mocked him in school hallways," I confronted Reed, Oliver said quietly. "And nothing about it felt right." Damon nodded, waiting. "There's distance," Oliver continued. "The kind that doesn't happen unless someone's hiding something." Damon's expression shifted with understanding, not triumph. "Sometimes the truth shows up the moment you stop protecting it." Oliver swallowed. "What if I've been protecting the wrong thing?" Before Damon could reply, Callan Pierce approached to ask Damon for help in the back room. Damon gave Oliver one last look, concern mixed with patience. Before following Callan. Left alone, Oliver exhaled shakily. He hadn't planned on confiding in Damon, yet the conversation had unfolded with disarming ease. He didn't know if he should feel ashamed or relieved. 2 hours later, the gym lights dimmed as closing time approached. Oliver was organizing keys when he heard footsteps behind him. He expected Damon but found Lena Hart instead. "You okay, Oliver?" she asked. That he tried to smile. "Working on it." Lena studied him with quiet sympathy. "If something's breaking in your life, don't let it cut you in the dark. Turn the lights on." Oliver appreciated her bluntness. "I think I already know what's breaking." Lena touched his shoulder. "Then be honest with yourself before you're honest with anyone else." Her words echoed in his chest long after she left. When Oliver arrived home that night, Reed was sitting at the dining table, hands clasped tightly. He looked as if he had been waiting for hours. "We need to finish our conversation," Reed said, voice low. Oliver sat across from him. "I'm listening." Reed took a breath too shaky to hide. "I haven't been fair to you." Oliver's pulse quickened. The truth was coming. Finally, Reed continued, "I've been talking to someone. Not physically. Not cheating, not like that. But emotionally, I messed up." The admission hit Oliver harder than any confrontation could have. "How long?" Oliver asked. 2 months, Reed said. "It wasn't supposed to be anything. I was stressed. You seemed distant. I made a mistake." A bitter laugh rose in Oliver's throat. "You thought I was distant?" "Reed, I was exhausted. But I still showed up." "You didn't." Reed leaned forward desperately. "It doesn't mean I don't love you." "Then why did you give your attention to someone else?" Oliver asked softly. Reed had no answer. The truth hung between them, painful, undeniable, reshaping what they once called stability. Oliver stood slowly. "I need space. For real this time." Reed's breath trembled. "Are you leaving me?" "I'm leaving the version of us that pretends we're okay." Oliver walked into the bedroom, grabbed a small overnight bag, and stepped outside. The cold air bit at his skin, but clarity warmed him in a way Reed hadn't managed in months. Without realizing it, Oliver found his feet carrying him toward the gym. Its neon sign buzzed faintly in the late evening air. He didn't expect anyone to be inside, but when he reached the front door, Damon was locking up. Damon froze for a second, surprise flickering across his face. "Oliver? What happened?" Oliver swallowed hard. Reed confessed. Damon didn't touch him, didn't even step forward, but his presence grounded the tremor in Oliver's voice. "I ended it," Oliver whispered. Damon nodded slowly, eyes softening with an empathy that didn't seek to claim anything. "I'm sorry. Not because of him. But because you didn't deserve that." Oliver studied Damon, the former bully who now spoke with measured kindness, who listened more than he talked, who offered only what Oliver allowed. "I don't know what comes next," Oliver admitted. "You don't need to," Damon said. "You only need to breathe through the moment you're in." Oliver exhaled shakily. "I'm trying." "For what it's worth," Damon said, voice low and sincere, "you're stronger than the person I once hurt. Stronger than the person Reed underestimated. You don't need anyone to define your worth." Oliver blinked, unexpectedly moved. Damon's words weren't promises, they were acknowledgments. "Thank you," Oliver said quietly. Damon looked away, almost shy. "I'm not asking for a place in your life. I just want you to know you're not alone." But Oliver felt it, something had shifted. Not romantic, not dramatic, but profound, a recognition that people could grow, apologize, and become safe in ways the past never suggested. The night air wrapped around them as Damon finished locking the door. "Walk with me?" Damon asked gently. Oliver nodded. They moved down the quiet street, not speaking, not rushing, simply existing side by side in a calm that felt earned, and although neither said it aloud, something new had begun forming between them, quiet and cautious, but real, something built not on betrayal or fear, but on honesty, healing, and the quiet possibility of a future Oliver had never imagined.